Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. This is the November 9th, 2017 meeting of the East Fishkill Town Board. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. A few announcements for the evening. On October 31st, some people from the MTA stopped by the town hall. They requested a meet. The MTA doesn't really request. The MTA is just not built that way. The MTA just kind of comes in, and they wanted to talk, and they're building a rail trail. They said the governor loves rail trails, and he's going to build a rail trail that's going to connect to our rail trail down here by Williams Lumber. It's going to go all the way down to Brewster. The governor wants to do it. He put the money in the budget. It's going to happen. So there wasn't a whole lot of conversation about what they were going to do. They just basically came to tell us what they're going to do. So we're going to have a walking rail trail down there. Now, we had actually had some friends of ours that actually wanted to bring some railroads, real railroad cars over to the Hopewell Depot. But the governor wouldn't let the MTA consider that until he gets his rail trail in. So I believe the rail trail is going to be starting sometime next year, and I think it's a 2-year project. So they call it the Beacon Line Rail Trail, and we're going to post the information on our website. They're going to have a couple of public hearings in Dutchess County. Monday, November 13th, 6 to 8 p.m. at Pauling High School. And then they're having one in Putnam County, Tuesday, November 14th at Putnam County Tops Building Auditorium. And this information will be on our website. So I just want to let everybody know, if you like rail trails, you're going to be able to walk from Brewster pretty far north. So that's what they're going to be working on the next couple years. I did want to respond. There was a couple of comments from last meeting I did want to respond to. And we had some residents here from Wildflower when we were going over the special district budgets. We had some residents from Wildflower, and they questioned the rates. And after the meeting, our town engineer, Scott Bryant, checked the proposal that we had provided to them years ago when we hooked them up. And we're right on the money with what we told them the charges would be. So I don't know what I'm not sure where if there was any misinformation, but I do recall that when we talked to the homeowners association, they had indicated that there would be a decrease in the homeowners fees, being there's going to be a sewer bill. It wouldn't be there. I don't know if they ever saw that, and that's really nothing for us to comment on. I just wonder if maybe that's where some of the miscommunication was. But as far as the rates that we set for the sewer a few years ago, we're right on the money where we said we would be. So I did just want to clarify that. A gentleman had some questions about a business summit that we had last year. Supervisor-elect D'Alessandro and Councilman Franco hosted a business summit here in the town hall. And there's also a question about creating a business council. So I'll let Supervisor-elect speak on that if he has any plans for that.
Yeah, I have plans for starting a few different committees and councils in town comprised of residents and professionals, and one of them will be a economic development or a small business committee. So once I get everything in line, I will be putting information out on the website and on our Channel 22 for people to provide us with their resumes and whatnot if they have interest to serve on any of these boards.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep.
There were a couple questions about, well, one was a comment on the West Complex building. Yes, the West Complex is an eyesore. Actually, you know, any industrial property like that is an eyesore. We hate to see industrial buildings vacant and deteriorate the way that they have. We don't own them. We're not the property owners. We do get after them for building maintenance, property maintenance. Excuse me. But, you know, we're just hopeful to see these parcels, these properties redeveloped. I think that that's the best use. They are industrial. We're very happy to see the East Complex is going to be redeveloped, and hopefully the West Complex will be redeveloped. So, you know, we certainly agree with the gentleman that made the comment. We don't like to see vacant, run-down industrial buildings, but the best thing we can do is create redevelopment incentives, which is what we're working on now. So we're very hopeful to see the West Complex be redeveloped, as the East Complex is at this moment. And there was a question about pollution on the West Complex. I don't believe there's any pollution on the complex, on the West Complex. We know in the past on the East Complex, they had some issues from way back when, and IBM back then put in pump and treat filter systems. They have, I think, 3 or 4 of them on the site. The West Complex, I believe there's no pollution issues on the West Complex. So I think we're pretty good with that. And then somebody did ask about the number of taxable parcels in the town of East Fishkill. There's 11,804 taxable parcels, and the rec taxes are, the rec budget is about $1.27 million, which is 6.76% of our total general and highway town budget. So just a couple, just want to clarify this for a couple of the comments from last meeting. That being said, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Councilperson Cassidy?
Present.
Councilperson D'Alessandro?
Present.
Councilperson Franco?
Present.
Councilperson Marinaro?
Present.
Supervisor Hickman?
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Tonight, we do not have any minutes to approve. Nothing under receipt and file, correct?
Correct.
Public hearings, we do have one public hearing. This is the public hearing to consider our general and highway budgets. With that, do I have a motion to open the public hearing to consider the general and highway budgets for the year 2018?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The public hearing is now open. I would just like to make a couple comments on the budget. Budgets are, like as I think I said last meeting, very difficult. We strive very hard to provide our services at a fair tax rate. We're under the tax cap again, and with no major disruptions in service. As a matter of fact, I'm very proud of the police, recreation, highway, and the services the town provides. So with that, our controller is going to give us a little presentation, and he's even doing the light switch himself. He got it right the first time. I always get it wrong. I always have to flick the other light. So Controller Mark Posniak will give us a little.
Okay, this is just a very brief overview of some of the highlights of the preliminary 2018 budget. Okay, so this is a summary of all of the appropriations, revenues, and
Mark,
property
talk to the
taxes.
microphone a little bit closer.
And property taxes for all of the funds. General fund has in the budget $13 million approximately in appropriations for 2018. Of that, about $7.1 million will be funded through property taxes. The highway fund has about $5.7 million in appropriations, of which 5.38 is funded by property taxes. All of the special districts combined have appropriations, so this is the lighting districts, the park districts, water, sewer. We have a drainage and sidewalk district as well. 3.5 million, of which 1.6 is funded by property taxes. So the total town tax levy will be 14 million, just over 14 million, and total appropriations will be just over 22 million. Just some highlights of things that are different this year than in prior years, or not necessarily different things to highlight, would be that the tax cap is not being exceeded. We've never exceeded the tax cap. The total levy, that 14 million that I referred to, represents a 2.7% increase over last year. In the highway fund, the paving and highway equipment lines are being increased by about $100,000 each. The $10,000 rec stipend has been removed from the budget. $40,000 has been appropriated in the general fund to improve the heating and cooling units in Town Hall. We have budgeted for a $160,000 grant. We may even see more than that, but we're expecting at least $160,000 for our participation in the County Drug Task Force. Minimum wage will be increasing 70 cents. This really primarily impacts our wages paid to the camp and camp counselors and lifeguards. We have charts for those positions, and the first year positions would fall below these amounts, so we'll have to raise those wages in 2018 and probably have corresponding increases in user fees for camp and Red Wing to cover those additional costs. We're going to see a 70-cent increase every year, basically from now until it hits $15 an hour.
It's, yeah.
There's no more property tax rebate. There wasn't last year either, but just wanted to mention this because there is still a rebate for school taxes, and sometimes there's some confusion about that. But related to town property taxes, there is no more rebate should we stay under the cap. We stayed under the cap anyway, but you won't be receiving a check because of that. Health insurance premiums are by far the most significant cost increase. We've budgeted about a $400,000 increase in health insurance. Okay. So the tax increase is complicated because it's how much more you pay is influenced not only by the increase in the tax levy or decrease, but also by changes in assessments and new properties. So in 2018 and 17, a $300,000 house would have paid about $927 in property taxes, town taxes. That same house in 2018 will pay $958, and that represents about a 3.3% increase. You've seen these next three charts before, but again, I think they're relevant. This is historical spending trends over the last 6 years, showing the general and highway expenditures have been basically flat for the last 6 years. This just gives you an idea of where the town is spending money. About a third for highway, about a third for the police department, and a third for everything else. Everything else including recreation and the various departments that provide permits and licenses. And lastly, when you pay property taxes, you get two bills throughout the year. Roughly 75% of what you pay in property taxes go to the school, and about 10% goes to the town and county, about 3% or so to the fire district, and a little less than 1% to the library. So we're that green sliver in the pie chart. And that's just a quick summary of the budget and general town finances.
Great, thank you, Mark. And in the past few years, the pension increases that New York State has been hitting us with, that has been the real driver. It's been a real challenge, I'll say. But now it looks like it's the health insurance cost.
Yeah,
But,
pensions are a little bit up, but not much. So
What's that, Mark?
pensions are a little bit up, but not much.
Yeah, so it's been tough. But all in all, I got to say, we seem to always be able to find revenue to offset the increases internally. I think we've done a very good job of providing our services at a good rate. So that being the budget had been presented to the town board, I believe, on October 4th. And I know we had some questions at the last town board meeting. And Mark, I don't know if you had any questions with the town board. But before we ask the town board, is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak on the town, make comments on the town budget, general and highway budgets? Anybody like to speak?
Ed Sloshower. Good evening, everybody. I just kind of went through and I made notes on a bunch of things, so I'll just try to get through them quickly as possible. First question is, I'm just curious, do we do zero-based budgeting when we prepare the budget every year?
I'm sorry.
Zero-based budgeting? Is
No,
that
we
when you-
basically, we look at last year's budget, we'll look at 3 years' historical budgets, and we'll project out from that. Try to get an idea what the costs have been over those last 3-year period.
Okay. Have we ever done zero-based budgeting,
Probably
out of
back in the
curiosity?
ways, but
No, I mean, and similar to what I'm sure you experience in the school, a significant percentage of our appropriations are fixed by,
There is no zero. Let's say that.
Well,
There's
I mean,
no
usually,
zero.
I understand building up from, yes, but
you always try, look, in order to try to, say, look, to reduce the budget or look for, funds to utilize for different things, usually if when you have fixed costs, but if you start at zero, just basic accounting is in order to find that money and have each department, submit, their budget for that department and then work from there is usually as an accounting method to actually, find funds that you can use for other things. So that's why I was just asking, that's all. So if that's not what we do, it's not what we do, but
No,
that's
no,
just
well,
a method.
We do it a little bit differently. We
That's
do
why
it
I'm
based
saying,
on
it's a
historical-
method to try to find funds.
Well, I think, yeah.
Okay. First thing, just moving to elected officials, you had calculated slight increase of 1.75% pay increase for elected officials. In last year's budget, that was 1.5%, and I do believe the councilman did vote last year not to take an increase, if I remember correctly. I was just curious, who determines and how is it determined for the increase? Is it rate of inflation? Where do these percentages come from, and how do you calculate them? and
Basically,
how do
when
you
I,
arrive to those?
and first, to the first point, I'd like to say that any elected official, I've given up my raises in the past. I mean, any elected, just let me finish.
I'm not saying no.
No, just let me finish. You made a comment first. I'd just like to say, any elected official has the opportunity to waive an increase or that. I've done that several times myself in the past. When I look at the budget, when I do the budget, I also look at the contracts that we have. We just settled the contract with the PBA. We're in negotiations with the CSCA. So I try to match, our increases to what the budget increases of our rank and file are. We try to stay in line with them.
Okay. A 8810, out of my own kind of curiosity, is a cemetery fund. Does the town own cemetery, some cemetery land that obviously we're responsible for
we do.
maintaining?
Yep, it's a little-known state law that when a cemetery is abandoned, it automatically goes to the town.
Reverts back? Okay.
Oh, we have, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 5 of them, at least 4 of them.
Okay. We had A7560, which was Channel 22, our station.
Guys, what page you're on?
I'm sorry, that's going to be page 9.
Page 9, okay.
A7560 is the code.
A7560, personal services, yes.
Okay, again, just kind of jumps out of a 70.2% increase, and then an overall 14.7% increase. Just looking, just for an explanation as to what the increase was for and what it's covering.
I
Since
believe
we
that
have
would-
year-to-date
I think that
actuals and budgeted amount, and it's a
Oh, understood.
significant increase. So did we upgrade equipment? What?
We'll explain it to you, yes, absolutely. I think that's when we went from having a paid individual to a
yeah,
contract.
this is really a reflection of just changing the classification of our videographer from an employee, which the salary would be shown under the .1 line, the personal service line, to a subcontractor. Also, when we pay a subcontractor, we pay them the full rate, and it shows up under this line. When we pay someone as an employee, the portion of their salary and the cost that goes towards Social Security and Medicare is in a different line in the budget. So that's not really an increase. It's more a reflection of the cost shows up in this line as opposed to some here and some in the Social
Right, so
Security
you
and
have
Medicare
to
line.
split it up for different
Yeah.
budget lines, but theoretically, it's the same.
Theoretically, it's the same. The difference, the primary difference is we've added $2,500 over last year for equipment.
Okay.
The intention there is just to keep on top of the equipment year after year.
Okay. Just with that being said, with equipment, and I don't know if it's a problem that I just have at home, but more time than not, I have to turn my TV up to like 80 or 100 on the volume. I did mention this like a year ago or so. I don't know if it's just my problem or if anyone else in the community has the same problem. For some reason, the audio portion on Channel 22, there seems to be a problem.
In the past, I think it'd been an issue. I don't think it's as much an issue. I'll check with the...
Couple weeks ago,
with
I
the
was watching-
Audio, video guy, yeah.
Okay, I don't know. I seem to have that problem a lot when I'm watching the town board.
I asked the videographer that a couple of weeks ago. The way it was explained to me is that our equipment is working properly, but when we transmit Cablevision, somehow the line is not properly functioning with the wave that
The signal,
our
right, with the
communication, the
signal,
signal.
okay.
So somehow, I think somebody needs to get in touch with Cablevision to rectify the
If we
problem.
could find out.
I think he made phone calls to them, but no response. So I think some of the officials, I think we should put something in writing, because Mike has had that problem.
We can call Cablevision, that's no problem.
Yeah.
We have a municipal liaison that we deal with all the time.
Yeah.
We can check into that.
Yeah, I spoke to
No
Mike
problem.
about that. That's a persistent problem, but it's not because of his equipment or our equipment.
Okay.
It's got to do something with Cablevision. So he asked me to kind of, if we could put something
Okay.
on the officials to Cablevision, because they're not responding to
Well,
him.
why don't we do this? Let me make a call to the liaison
Yeah.
for the municipalities, because maybe he's not aware of it yet.
Okay.
And we'll see what we
And
can do.
consider-
I was
considering
unaware
we-
that
we
that
spent-
was the issue. We had upgraded some of the equipment.
Okay, and considering a lot of homeowners complain about the cost of Cablevision, at least it would be nice that we can hear. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Councilman and Supervisor. Just moving down, Town Planner, 8023, there's a slight,
Page?
same page.
Oh, same page?
Yeah,
Yep.
A8023 Town Planner, total Town Planner. There's a slight 4.7 increase. Is that an increase in compensation for our planner? Or is that?
Well, we have a contract
Or we
with
have
another town, so the other town pays the full salary and benefits of our town planner, and then we reimburse our share.
Okay.
So this doesn't just represent a salary increase, it's
Total compensation
Total
increase,
compensation
that's
increase,
our,
so
that's our portion
That's our
of
portion.
the contract that we have to reimburse the
so
other.
that's including health insurance, pension.
So whatever
everything.
the total increase was of the contract, that's our portion
That's right.
of, that we have to contribute. Okay, thank you. On the next page, oh, you answered my question on cemetery fund, I'm sorry. Right underneath that, there's miscellaneous home and community service. I don't know if HSNR, is that for Hosner Mountain? Is that
Yep.
A
What page is that?
8989,
Yeah.
page 10?
Yep.
Again, there's a 312.5% increase. Again, just when percentages jump out at me, I always like just to get an explanation. We're projecting 33,000. Our year-to-date on that was about roughly 7,200.
Yep. Oh, no,
And then
absolutely.
overall, there's a 78.1% increase. Just, again, just an explanation.
Sure, if you'd like an explanation, I'd be more than happy to supply it to you.
Please, I would,
Oh,
I'm sure the
absolutely.
community would
I mean,
too.
when you look at the percentages like that, but typically, we have mowing and maintenance out. That's the old Hosner Mountain landfill. Basically, we have mowing and just clearing minor maintenance. We budgeted a little bit more going forward because the DC has contacted us. They've contacted, they're looking at all the landfills that have come off the registry for last 20 years probably, and they're just going over them. They're just reviewing them. So they were out a few weeks ago to do some inspections and some testing, and I just put a few, maybe another, I forget what we put in there, another $25,000, yeah, just in case we're going to have any engineering fees, in case DC comes back, they want further testing and stuff. So it's just a precaution. What happens with a budget, when you do a budget, you look forward, you try to anticipate expenses, you try to anticipate revenues. As the year progresses, like if DC doesn't come back next year, that would be money that we could certainly shift to another budget line if needed, or if it's not needed, go to the general fund at the end of the year, so, you know.
Okay.
But just to be safe, thinking there may be some engineering fees involved, we put a little bit more money in there.
That-
$25,000.
That's fine. I just, to me personally, I mean, I would think maybe for the future, for those types of things, especially for people, maybe within the district are not that knowledgeable of how these budgets work and whatnot, initially, on the first page, you have some footnotes. It might be a good idea to put some footnotes when you have some increases into why you're doing it, so people kind of understand what the numbers mean. Just a suggestion. It might help for those that really don't truly want to look numbers by numbers, but say, hey, there's a big increase, oh, there's the reason why, and you just gave an explanation. I think that might be helpful moving forward in the future, for the budget, is to do a footnote page, but just a suggestion. Mark, you had mentioned in your quick presentation, we're going to have a slight increase in minimum wage, and you had given out some numbers for the recreation costs, I believe I saw, with regards to Red Wing, of about $120,000 to $125,000. I believe you mentioned, I saw briefly, I was flipping through on the workshop meeting, and the revenues were about 90,000.
Estimated, yes.
Estimated, and the main reason, again, is we do have the minimum wage increase
Yeah, and I mean,
for the summer jobs and whatnot.
we may see, I guess the hope would be that we'll see a corresponding increase in revenues to cover the additional costs.
Okay. 'cause
Some of that
obviously-
is a bit precautionary, but
So we may be looking at $5 or $10 increase, let's say, for a Red Wing pass for next year.
whatever it would take to support.
Because obviously, we have to offset the cost of the mandated minimum wage
If it doesn't come from
increases.
those user fees, it's coming from some other source, but
Okay, from somewhere.
that'll be determined, but I would anticipate it would be user fees.
Okay, so again, Red Wing, we're still operating either way at a bit of a loss.
At a small
slightly.
loss,
Well,
yes.
it
Small
depends,
loss.
well, let me just say, on Red Wing, you never can tell, because it's weather-driven. Some years you'll have a hot summer, and Red Wing will do very well. And sometimes you'll have a cloudy summer, a cool summer, you won't have as many people, but we're still required to have a certain number of lifeguards. That's kind of a fixed cost.
Yeah,
So, but sometimes, we do cover our costs out
I
there. It's
understand.
recreation.
Okay. Speaking of recreation, then moving over to the Limekill rec facility. Do we know offhand what our total expenses were for running the facility for the past year, and what our projected expenses are going to be for the facility?
Eddie, what page are you on?
It wasn't a page. It was,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't extract that.
I'm just adding the numbers up, about 77,000 looks to be the total cost. That includes the field lighting as well. So it's the building, the staff, the indoor utilities, and the exterior utilities as well.
Okay. And our revenues would be versus
I
this
think
past year, and what our projected may be? I guess that's just strictly based on membership?
Yeah, membership rates were increased.
I remember that, yes, we had that discussion.
We
Do we know how much
I think
we
it's
generated?
18,000 or something like that is the membership revenues projection for the year, something in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Plus, we shifted our recreation staff here over there. We saved about $20,000, I think, in
Yeah,
staffing
we've
costs.
reduced staffing
think-
costs by about $20,000.
$20,000. So we're looking at, I know,
Still
to
looking
get-
at a $40,000?
Well, again, now, if we're going to include all the costs, then we need to include the field. I would back out the field lighting if you want to consider the building, or do you want to talk about the whole?
Well, I just want to talk, what is it costing us to operate that facility?
the building, the outdoors, or what?
It's more than just
Be more
membership. We would have the field rentals as well.
I mean, that's revenue. I mean,
Reluctant. Well, often when we talk about Limekiln, we're only talking about the building, so
But there's more to
you now want to
Limekiln
talk
than
about
just
the
the building.
whole property,
Mark,
which is
why don't-
fine.
Any
but-
other
Mark,
revenue
why don't
that
you
we
break
get
it down for us?
Any of that revenue that we get from the facility obviously is offsetting the cost of the expenses to run it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get an idea, because again, hot topic or not a hot topic, does this facility make sense? Is this draining resources to maintain this facility? If we're losing $30,000 or $40,000 a year in this facility, then it might be
Well, my
something to
question would
dis-
be, how much revenue do we make for the baseball fields and the football fields and this is a
The community
question.
center, it's recreation.
It's,
We like to cover our
Recreation.
costs when we can, but it's a service
so if
we
you're going to
provide.
include the fields and everything else, you have to expect there's going to be,
Do we have any debt on that property?
There's no debt.
There's no debt. So we purchased that property cash from IBM?
We purchased.
We paid them $500,000 for it, and they're kind of, we have an agreement that will supply their members a certain rate.
Okay, but I'm saying we spent $500,000 for that property, and we're operating that on a significant loss on a yearly basis.
Yeah, well, would you consider a significant loss? I mean, when you compare it to the rest of the recreation, we have the fields, we have the community center. You're not analyzing them also. I think that they should all be included. I mean, this is recreation that we provide.
Recreation operates at about a $1.2 million loss across the town.
What
Right.
it costs us.
Lime Kiln operates as a whole,
Okay.
maybe at
I
a $40,000
know we had a
loss.
discussion last year. Do we know what our membership is for that facility? Did that increase
I
at all
don't have
from
it.
last year
I don't have
to
it off
this
the-
year? Even though we had this, because we had a slight increase, it was discussed about raising the rate slightly. So
Yep.
did that turn people away? Did we get more people?
I
We don't
think
know.
that, Mark, I
Yep.
think that the building itself, I think is probably trying to get out what is the building costing besides everything else. And the building, after we take all the revenues that come in, I believe it's about it's costing us $47,000 a year, correct? Just the building alone.
The building, I think we said, the total lime kiln costs are, we just said about 77 projected for next year. I think you could back out 15 for field lighting, so say 62,000. I would say we're going to see estimated revenues around $20,000. Well, let's say 18,000 for not including the field revenues. So, you're talking, I mean, in the 40s, somewhere in the 40s.
Okay.
It's costing
So it's
us
about
as a
40,
ballpark.
45,000, the building itself.
I mean, again, I mean, maybe just, listen.
But I would like to ask you
believe
quick
the
about
fields are more
that.
to
Does that include the staffing?
That only includes
Just the operations of the building
the
itself?
staffing above our normal administrative people that are there.
Okay,
9 to
good.
4.
I just want to make sure you included that.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
All right, I think,
Okay.
I'm just going to say, maybe some conversations about figuring out a way that we can generate some more revenues out of that facility. Look, I don't know, maybe since, look, Julie's Jungle is a beautiful thing. I don't know, maybe partnering somehow with Abilities First, maybe making some of the facility there available to them, or some type of organizations that can utilize. I know we want to offer it free and people to come, but maybe with those types of organizations, they may be willing to come in, maybe partner with us, do something, and there might be a way to increase some revenues and really expand on, the Julie's Jungle theme. So
Well,
maybe
I
something-
wouldn't want to
maybe something
charge for
think about.
Julie's Jungle. I don't think that would be appropriate, but
Well, I'm
but we
saying
certainly
the
will
use
take
of-
that in
I'm saying the use of the
consideration.
facility, because it's for specific, special needs kids, and
Yeah.
bring in Abilities First, which in turn, field trips from their other locations and different things. I don't know. I'm just
Okay.
putting out an idea of possibly, how do we generate some more revenue out of that facility to reduce the cost of operating?
And I
That's all.
don't, yep,
We've had
Just-
discussed
I'm
about
just-
letting out-of-towners
Yeah.
come in also.
yeah, and paying it.
Exactly, Tom. It's, something moving forward. Just, I don't know, just an idea.
Oh, absolutely.
Look,
Point taken.
I understand, we're not here to make a profit on rec, and we're, cover everything, and it's giving it to the people of the community to use, and there's a cost of doing that, and that's what we're supposed to do. But at the same time, we should, look at ways of at least reducing our costs
We
as
do.
best as we can.
We
I'm not
do.
saying that we
Doing
don't,
with
but
that facility.
moving forward, we have to now kind of sometimes go outside the box and say, things are changing, we need to change our ideas of how to revenue.
if you
And
look-
again, we're doing shared services with other towns and different things, and maybe some type of shared services where that facility can be utilized by other people, and we can bring in some extra
Well, I
revenue.
think if you look at the
That's all.
expense graph that we had up before, in spite of all the increases, we've been very good about that. So we always are on the lookout for saving money and out of the box.
It's
I'll
just-
I'll also just again reiterate, we did just say we reduced payroll there by about $20,000,
Right.
and we did increase revenues there. So you can't say we're.
It's a little, I'm not saying we're not, I'm just trying to, how can we build on it and just do a little bit better, that's all. Okay, I don't want to spend all night on that. If we could move over to the highway, the first page, I just had a question. In the original footnote, you had mentioned there's a $100,000 increase for equipment. And I notice on line DA 980, 2665, we had it looks like there was equipment that was sold for $25,000. Am I reading that right, if that's a negative?
Sorry, what was that?
DA 980.
That's a budgeted number for equipment potentially to be sold in the coming year.
To be sold, not actually sold.
This is a budget for 2018, so.
Okay. So, equipment to be sold, okay.
It's possible. A lot of times when you change how you do things in highway, you don't need a large roller, or you don't need the big paver.
No,
or
again,
something
when
like
big
that.
numbers
We'll put
jump
it
out at me, I just
I just
want to
want-
get
just-
it's just an answer, that's all.
Just
And
explaining
you
it a
got
little bit.
That's fine. Going down just to maintenance of streets, DA 511049, I believe that's BKTP, stands for Blacktop Patch. Okay, current year so far, we spent a little over $142,000. If we spent so we spent so far $142,000. I'm just curious as to why we only budgeted $100,000. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, we did add, according to the presentation, another $100,000.
That's in someplace else.
This is just
That's
patch.
paving. This is
That's in,
patch.
Just patch only.
Now, typically, when you see patch, this is why we use a 3-year, go back 3 years. So if you would take a look at the prior year actuals.
All right, so again, you're just doing a 3-year average
Yeah,
to
you
come up
look
with
at,
that
I mean,
number.
3 years ago, 2 years ago, we used 44, then 96, 97, 142 this past year. Current year, 60. So I think we try to hit it, based on the prior year average.
I'm just saying, just because we have the paving issue, to me, I think patchwork is going to increase and not decrease because we don't have additional funds going into the paving, even though you did add 100,000.
Yes, we
And
did.
from prior presentations, obviously, we need a lot more. I don't see patching being less. I see it being probably more, but
Well,
hopefully that won't be the case.
That last
but-
year really stood out because if you look, 2 years ago, it was only 97, so we feel actually 100 is in the ballpark. And it's dependent on the winters and stuff like that also, so.
Okay.
Weather-driven.
Speaking of winter then, if we could turn the page and go to snow removal for DA 5142-41, materials. I'm going to assume that materials is salt
Salt and sand.
and sand. Okay. I tried to get a little caught up, but maybe somebody could tell me. I thought we purchased an enormous amount of salt a couple of years ago. We kind of got stuck in this contract with the county or the state, and we had to buy all this salt, and we were having conversations that we didn't even have enough storage bins to hold all this salt, and that was actually what our problem was. And we seem to have a couple of mild winters, but we have $450,000 budgeted for salt again.
You want to explain that one, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, if you
How
look-
much salt do we have left from that humongous
$800,000,
purchase?
I think? Well,
Of
last
salt.
year, we had the issue, we had too much salt.
Well,
We had that ban for it, correct?
right, we had a mild winter, we had additional salt. That was 2 years ago. Our salt costs this year were much less because we entered the year with a completely stocked salt barn.
Okay.
All right, but we're getting back more towards normal in the coming years. The
Well, it was
barn's
only,
half
but we
full
bought
now.
it 2 years ago, it was filled. We had a mild winter last winter. So from 100%, what do we have now? 80% filled? 60% filled?
50%?
So we had a mild
some-
winter and we used half the salt?
Well, it's not, it's being,
Last year wasn't mild.
so if you want to go
Sorry,
back,
2 years ago.
I'm not a weatherman, but if we look back at historical costs, 4 years ago, we spent $600,000 in salt and sand, then $900,000, then $639,000. Then we had the one off year, which was the 146. 450 doesn't seem that high to me.
Okay.
3 years ago, I think we ran out of salt.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, right, we did, and then we got,
But you also have to project when they buy the salt, so
Well,
they're
I-
you're
right.
ordering it in June,
You enter
yeah,
into,
you don't,
do your averages, you know.
okay.
that's why we use historical averages.
Do we have an actual figure how much salt do we have in storage?
we can ask the highway, my understanding is
Bill,
it's half full, which is,
Bill, can you give us a figure?
500 tons of salt, a little over 3,000 tons of sand salt mix in stock as we speak. Salt is reduced price by $20 a ton. $450,000 is very generous number.
If we don't need it, then the board can choose to use that money
So-
elsewhere.
And I wasn't asked any of the information, so
You were
So,
asked.
If the weather is a rough year, how much salt and sand do we use? How many tons?
the average Dennis has used in the past is around 75 to 8,500 sand salt.
So we have about almost that right now. You're saying between sand and salt, right?
That's correct. We're gonna need more sand as the winter proceeds, but the salt, I believe, we should be fairly good. But the numbers that you all are talking about are not only this winter, but the end of next year also. You know, you have to look
Yeah.
at the whole calendar year. So we might be nice and happy this year, winter, but you still have the following, you know, the next part of the year to deal with. So you remember your purchases for basically 2 winters.
And we don't want to end next year with nothing in the supply. So, I mean, what we're purchasing here is what we're expecting to use next year, not including what's in the
For 18, end of
storage
18,
now.
beginning
For
of 19.
18, well, no, for the beginning of 18 and then the end of 18.
18, I'm sorry.
But we don't want to go into 19 with
19.
nothing. So again, if you just assume that
Okay.
what we have in the shed at the end of this year is what we'll have in the end of the shed at,
So in terms of capacity, we know that we're at another 20, 30%, we'd be at full
so
capacity?
if it's 70, let me put it this way. If we're using 7,000 tons at $70, that's $490,000.
But again, that's sand salt. Sand does not cost you the high 70s.
Right.
Sand costs you around 14.
Okay. So what's the?
I'm
what's
just
your-
curious,
What's
what
your
was-
point, well, I'm sorry, though, what's your point with the
I'll
salt and
get
sand
to
for
my
material?
point, John.
Yeah.
I'll get to my point in a second. So if we placed a salt order today, how much salt would we need to fill our coffers?
The salt barn is full to capacity as we speak.
Okay, so if it's factoring in this into the end of 18, November and December, how much salt?
I make a hell of a lot more money than I make now because I'm the weatherman.
Okay. So an estimate, if we filled the coffers for the sand salt, how much would we need to spend to make sure we were at 100% capacity?
Again, depending upon this whole winter season. From now, it snowed the other night, Tuesday night, it was snowing on the mountains. So this winter season, as we speak, we're gonna burn through everything we have in inventory. We're gonna restock in the spring, summer for next winter.
Okay.
That's where I believe they've come up with the $450,000.
Okay. The point I was just trying to make, John, because, again, I was moving then, kind of over back to the paving situation. If we seem to be a little bit on the generous side, and we seem to be, 100,000 is a little bit on the light side, my thinking would be, I rather, have a line item for paving. And if, God forbid, we had a bad winter, and do that as a budget transfer and take that money back from paving to put it back to salt if we had an emergency.
Right.
I'd like to see a larger number committed, and if, the weather was bad, and obviously it's the same money, so we got to shift back and forth. This way, moving forward, at least the new highway superintendent would have, more monies to work with to address the paving situation. I'd rather do a budget transfer from paving back to snow than from snow, but that's just me.
So
But-
that's you. Now, my
That's all.
concern with this is obviously, we're going to be going 2018, we're going to have January, February, March. We don't know what kind of a winter it's going to be, and we do have a responsibility to keep the roads passable. And then there's always the option to transfer it back to paving, if any. But also you have to consider, like here where we're in a very mild November, well, October's been very mild, November's getting a little bit chilly. So you never know what it's going to be for the next month and a half. So it's very weather-driven, and I think this is, I think it's a very good budget for that, so.
Okay.
I think we need to be able to put down the salt if the weather turns bad.
Okay, and then we mentioned just the ban on the money that we borrowed, so that money's been paid back, correct, according to the line item?
It will be.
For
Yep, it's a December ban, so
December ban, so it's due and it's paid back in full, and then we don't have any other obligation, correct?
that's right.
Okay.
Can I interrupt 1 second while we're on this?
Sure, I'm sorry.
So if the appropriation are made for certain departments, we're giving certain amount of money to salt and snow, is it up to the discretion of the highway superintendent how to spend that money? Or how
Only
does that
within the
work
line
as far
items.
as?
Only within the line items. So yes, $450,000 in snow supplies. How much is salt? How much is sand? How much is some third item that I'm not aware of, it's up to the highway superintendent's discretion.
So.
But he
can
can't
we-
he can't make a line item change.
We make the
It's a town-
budget transfers.
We make the budget
Yeah, we make the
transfers.
budget transfers.
Budget transfers.
In other words, if he has that money and he's not using it, is it at his discretion or the
No,
board discretion?
Ours.
So if there's $450,000 in the snow supplies, and we only spend 100,000, it's up to the board to determine what to do with that other 350, or just leave it there and it can't be spent.
But we could transfer it to blacktop. Right. Or if we put it out there for paving, I'd rather have it in snow removal. Because, no,
understand.
but this is my thought process.
Okay.
I agree with what you're saying.
Okay.
But if I put it down as paving, and I have to, when we do that, then we come up with a list of roads. Well, if you're the last road on there and I just stole $50,000 because I needed salt and sand and I don't hit your road, I'd rather explain that I got to your road next year because we had a bad winter than I
Okay.
had to take your road away,
Good point.
you know?
Okay.
So, Mark, one last suggestion. Is it advisable that in the future, maybe we'll have the highway superintendent come to us and give us some kind of report, either to you or to the board, how, and how much of the stuff that we have, as far as salt usage or anything else? I know that you give us some kind of report, quarterly report, but sometimes, unless the vouchers come in, we
It doesn't
really don't have an
include-
accurate report.
It doesn't include, things that haven't been paid yet, and it doesn't include what's in the inventory, so if
Right.
you want to ask that of
So
the,
would it be a good idea to have him come up, maybe at a meeting and
Well, I
give
think
us
the
a...
board, the board always has the discretion to invite an elected official and talk about it,
Right.
absolutely.
I think it would be advisable for all of us
We can always do that.
to have
I
a
think
quarterly update of where we're at, so, but sometimes I ask you, but,
no, I agree. I can't give you all the answers.
right, unless you have all the vouchers coming in, you really don't have a figure of how the money's spent. And sometimes we're into July, July, that we know what's that coming, so.
Councilman, just so you know, I'm going to plan on having monthly meetings
Good.
with all the department heads.
And just real quick, because obviously I'd like to give somebody else an opportunity. I know we're close, Scott, with the John Jay Water and Sewer, December, hopefully. But do we have any,
Is this the
projected-
budget?
well, yeah, it's going to be, what would projected costs be
Yeah.
for taking over the project for the town? Obviously, it's a savings to the school district, which is nice, but just curious, from the town perspective, taking over the water and sewer over there, is there any additional cost to the town for maintaining that?
Well, they're a part of a district where they pay.
Why do you
Yeah.
say take
Just
over?
like
I'm not
everybody
quite sure
else.
would take over what?
Well, the school district is not part of it, is not, right, is not paying, or the school district is paying into the district, the established water
But
district.
it's a new sewer district.
New sewer district.
New water district, so we're not taking over.
Okay, so does the town incur any expenses for that, or it's going to be paid for by the, by the
everyone
participants
Oh, just the
in the
district
district,
pays.
in the creative district?
Just the districts.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. And then just real quick, just total revenues between 17 and the projected for 18. Did we have, looking at any increase in projected revenues?
Yeah, we have a variety of increases.
So any, just the total number?
Well, when you look
If
at
you look at
revenues, you try,
total-
I'm sorry, Mark, if you'd
Yeah,
like to.
if you look at the total revenue line, the current 17 budgeted amount is $12,289,000. In 2018, we've estimated revenues at $13 million. So
So we got a slight,
that's our biggest increase in a long time, so.
okay. Thank you. And then just the last question, because it was brought up, did we have any updates on CHIPS money from Department of New York State DOT?
I believe I spoke, I think we're current with CHIPS. I think the CHIPS were applied for twice a year. I believe we're current at this point.
So we received all the monies that were due us?
CHIPS is always included in the budget.
Okay, so we've got it already, and it's
I
already
believe we're up to
included in
date.
there?
We could check. I believe
Okay.
we're up to date.
And then
now.
just the last question is, Mark, do you know roughly just the town's long-term debt obligations?
So I think what you're referring to is what we call OPEB, other post-employment
Yes,
benefits. So
Health
other
benefits
meaning
and so
not
forth.
pension,
correct.
which basically is our commitment for health insurance for retirees. we have an actuarial firm do the calculations, and I think the latest one was approximately $30 million.
$30 million. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Anybody else in the audience like to comment or ask any questions on the 2018 proposed town budget? Okay, there being on the board, does the board have any comments, questions on the budget that we proposed?
Couple comments.
Okay.
Our vehicles for the PD, that's 5 total?
Yeah, 5 total, I believe it was 3 marked and 2 unmarked.
Okay.
You know, we try, because our police operate 24/7.
Well, my concern is that maybe that's not enough.
I know, I
but-
know. And you know what, we were starting to look at, because we're starting to get vehicles, used vehicles from bid and things of that nature. Try to save some of the cost of them, but absolutely, we're trying to build back up.
And the MS4 budget, I saw increased, very small increase there, but don't we have new regulations from New York State?
I think they're
That'll
working
cover-
on them. I don't know if they've
Okay.
gone into effect yet.
Oh,
but,
okay.
yeah.
And if we needed to add for road maintenance, I had a resident call concerning about line painting. We can always add that to a road maintenance. We could do a budget transfer if we needed to do
Yeah.
more.
If you need to do road painting, sure, line painting. We also have a contingency budget in case there's anything that we've missed.
That's all for me.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions?
Well, I'd like to say, one thing that I'm going to certainly be, and no pun intended, hounding the new supervisor, is eventually if we can get another police dog. I think a police dog is very important, particularly the size of our town, the opioid crisis. I think that is something that we definitely have to look forward to getting again, and try to find some money for that.
Anything else?
Yeah, Mark, I know the question was asked about revenue. Are the revenue, roundabout figures compared to last year? What are we bringing in more total?
Yeah, so revenues, if we said non-property tax revenues, or do you want all?
Oh,
About 800,000.
over and behind from last year's revenue, right?
Approximately.
Total.
Yep.
So, again, my comment at this point is, I think we have to look back how much money we put into paving budget. I think that has to go up due to the fact that, first question I have, where is that 800,000 in the budget? How do we allocate that?
400 is in health insurance alone. So then the other 400 is spread out. We talked about 200 in highway for,
For increase in paving, increase in equipment, which goes along with really what you're saying,
Right.
increasing the paving budget.
But we're
there's
decreased, that
50,000
paving
increase.
budget was decreased by 300,000 compared to last year.
no, I mean, that's, again, that's that whole, we increased the
That was the
budget.
salt savings.
The salt savings, yeah. Our baseline budget for paving was 500 for paving and 100 for drainage as a capital project. And we've increased that to 6 and 1. So, no, I look at it as a $100,000 increase.
Okay, and the other 200,000, where are we putting that money?
I think 50 is in highway. There's a lot of small
Small things.
5,000,
We increased
10,000 increases
contingency.
in different lines.
The furnaces
Contingency is
on the
up
roof, we have 5
20,000.
furnaces, we've replaced 3 of them, I think.
I think he said that we already accounted 40,000. Is that part of the 800,000?
Yeah, that's part of it. The
Well, you
100
asked where's that 800 going, and I'm,
Yeah, that's part of
that's, you know, it's an expense that we didn't have last year. So that's basically where it's going.
I personally still think that, that paving should be getting some more money this year.
We have,
I
but we gotta
completely
build it
agree
up
that
little by little.
paving, yeah, should get more money. I mean, it should be 1.2, 1.5 million, somewhere in that range, no doubt. It's just hard to,
Yeah.
I mean, without,
So this year, as far as health benefits cost increase over last year, the cost is at $400,000 more?
That's the estimate, yeah.
So that's an estimate.
Yep.
What is the percentage increase compared to last year?
That's a 15% increase over the budget, but I think it's, in actual terms, probably more like an 11% increase. I think health insurance this year is coming in a little higher than we had budgeted, so that'll need to be addressed as well. It's not, health insurance isn't 100% predictable because we have something called the HRA. We have a state health insurance plan, and we have an alternate plan, which is done through CDPHP. In that, we have it's a high deductible, so any employee that signs up for that plan, the first $5,000 worth of expenses gets paid for out of the HRA. The town funds the HRA.
Yeah.
The premiums are much lower, not to get into too much detail.
And that's-
But it makes it,
That's
Yeah.
contractual, don't we?
yeah, but it makes it variable too,
Yeah.
so that,
But when we
depending
did
on how
that,
much.
we saved about $300,000 the first year.
When we first went into it, we saved,
But you lose the savings every year.
well,
you
the
don't-
premiums have been increasing in that plan faster than our others, and we're now now it's not saving us any money, but my only point is, even if we know exactly what the premiums are gonna be, we don't know exactly what our health insurance costs are gonna be because of this unknown contribution to the HRA. We make estimates.
Do we have any other alternatives? I mean, somebody mentioned shared services. Is there anything out there that we could share with other people so that would bring the cost down? The county, have we looked into that at all? Can we look into that to bring the cost down?
Yeah, the supervisor and I went to a couple of shared services meetings with the county. That's where we ended up, that was the genesis of that $160,000 grant that we're getting. Grant, I say, it's a funding source for our
For the police
drug
officer.
task force
Yeah.
in the county. We looked into a lot of shared services options. Supervisor, I don't know if you want to comment on those, but.
Oh, we've looked at a lot, and when you look at someone like, you do want to go into like a workman's comp pool with a bunch of other towns and things, that's always an issue, because if you have a good loss run, they have a bad loss run, you're going to average out, pay more. So I know shared services sounds like a great idea, but you got to be careful who you're partnering with, and I think actually over the last few years, we were pretty good with our medical, with our health insurance, but they're all going up. It's a crazy market, as we can see out there with the uncertainty, so that's part of it.
Yeah, I spoke with our health insurance agent, and I think we will be looking at another plan in 2018 for 2019, and hope, but
Yeah, we always try.
we can always try.
Yeah, and of course, it has to be approved by the unions, so that's a contractual concern, so.
And we do have, it was mentioned earlier, the planner, we're able to share a planner, and
Oh.
it reduces our costs
Yeah.
from having
Assessor.
one, and
Yeah.
same
No,
thing
we
with the
share our
assessor.
planner, we share our assessor, we've got some shared services with the water and sewer over John Jay, not necessarily saving us that much money, but it's saving the school system.
Which is saying the taxpayer.
Quite a bit of money,
Yeah.
so, yeah, we always
Or
try
allowing.
to share, but insurance is a tough one. Anybody else have any questions on the budget? Good? Good. All right. That being said, do I have a motion to close the public hearing on the general highway budgets for 2018?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion to adopt the 2018 budget as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Budget adopted. Thank you very much. All righty. Next is public comments on agenda items. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak on any agenda items?
Ed Sloshower again, real quick. I printed the agenda at home, and then the resolutions real quick. Couple things kind of jumped out at me. Not sure if this is a norm, but there's no attachments to the resolutions for a better understanding of the resolutions. The first resolution with authorizing a license agreement, don't know who's that supposed to be with. Is there a cost involved? Are we playing,
Yes,
bands
no, there's a
playing
clause. And
music?
If you like, we can go through each of them. I can explain them all to you. Absolutely have no problem with that. What happens, and I'm not sure if they do this with Wappinger Central School, but whenever you play music that's copyrighted, you have to enter into agreement with an agency. Do you have that? Wappinger Central School, I'm sure you have. I'm sure you guys play music, right?
You know what, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
ask that question.
You should check on that.
But my
So-
question is, if that's the case, why wouldn't that entity be named in the resolution?
Because there's 4 entities, and we're not sure which entity we're going to be going to contract with. There's, the one we're in contract with now is ASCAP. They're about $350 a year. We've been approached by another company, rather heavy-handedly, and they insisted that we should get their service. Now, one would think when you got ASCAP that you've got it all covered, you've covered all your copyright. Well, unfortunately, in the music industry, that's not the case. ASCAP, I come to find out now, because of the calls we've been getting from this other agency, they maybe handle, I think, 55% of the industry. So if you play America the Beautiful, they've got it. If you play the Beach Boys, they may not have it. And copyright by law, we have to have permission to use these for these songs.
Right.
So we were going to enter into a contract with ASCAP would be one, and I forget the name of the other one. There's another one that has like, between ASCAP and the other company, they have like 92% of all the songs. And they're about $350 apiece. The other company is double that. They're the high-pressure company. They only handle like 2%. So I'm just looking for authorization to enter into a contract with this other company to cover up to 92% of the music that we play. And then we'll have to be very careful with Bill Green when he has his concerts in the park. They have to be covered. It's not the band has to have the cover, the sponsor, the facility.
correct.
So you might want to check that with Wappinger Central School District. And if you do, let us know who you guys are using.
It's also music being played at camp, if they have a radio,
It's amazing.
Or
Yeah.
coming over
CD
the,
player,
theoretically over the PA
or-
system, right.
Thought we were covered with the one company, but come to find out we're not. So
Okay.
that's
I'll get-
what that is. And
I'll
I'm
get,
not
I'll get
sure,
back to you on that one.
because there's another company involved too, so I didn't want to put the names in because we have to make this choice. But they should run about $350 per.
Okay. Then just the next resolution, it's a refund of a building permit fee. Again, these just, they're kind of general. Do we know who the refund is for and what project?
Yeah. Scott, would you like to talk about this one a little bit? I mean, we did have a gentleman that came and took out a building permit.
Yeah.
I believe was it for new
A
construction?
person applied for a building permit for a new house, decided to withdraw the application, and they wanted to make a change. Some time lapsed, beyond the normal refund period, so they've made this written application to get a refund. They've since made a new application for a new house, different house, and they'd really like to have this applied towards that new building permit fee.
$806.25.
Right.
See, what happens, we have a policy that if you want a refund within a certain amount of time, we'll deduct any fees, any costs we've already incurred as far as review and inspection and such. But this one was older and the gentleman didn't realize it, so.
Okay. The next one, just you have the reporting resolution for record of activities for elected officials. Again, there's no attachment to the resolution as to the written activities. So again, it's kind of general. And then the last resolution, kind of the same thing. It doesn't, to maintain roads, I'm assuming you have some roads in mind, what would be the
Yeah.
roads?
We'll make sure the next time it says annex schedule, that is.
Yeah, my only, I'm not disputing, all I'm saying is, for the purposes of the
Next time we-
public to read this,
The next time it says annex schedule, we'll make sure it's
just
annexed.
isn't attached, so people know
Absolutely.
what you're looking to do. It's just a little bit more information. It's just kind of, it's a random permit for $1,100, or it's, it's something. Again, as I mentioned before, a footnote or an attachment, just to better explain what the resolution is, just a suggestion.
When it says annex, we'll make sure it's there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments on agenda items? Okay, there being none, we'll go to those resolutions. The first resolution authorizing a license agreement and I'll read it. Whereas in order to utilize live entertainment or mechanical music, the town has to enter into a license agreement to avoid copyright infringement claims. And whereas the agreement would allow the town to continue to be able to hold live musical presentations and music played over mechanical means in the town's recreation and other programs, that the supervisor hereby is authorized to execute an agreement to cover all music that will be played by live musical presentations, music played over mechanical means in town's recreation and other town programs. And I just didn't want to put down the firms because there's 4 of them. I think we're going to pick, we have ASCAP already. We had done that resolution last year, but this is the new firm. I believe it's going to be BMI, and I'll have to check on. The cost is about $350. So, that being said, do I have a motion to authorize a license agreement?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
But should we put an amount in there, like $500?
I'd hate to, if you want to put up to
No,
$500, sure.
No, I'd rather go
We
high,
can,
but.
we can amend it up to $500. That'd be fine. I have no problem with that.
I don't know if that.
I believe it's going to be like, I believe it's going to be like $350, but if you want to put up to an amount no
More than
more,
enough, Mark, is all I want to know.
I don't think Mark.
I think 500 should be more than enough.
Yeah. Well, it's not if we went with that other firm that was,
Well, that was going to
Sending
be
me
my
a
follow-up.
million
There's
emails.
there's that third firm.
Yeah, they
It was a
was-
small percentage,
yeah.
and the price was much higher, so.
very, very high price, so. Okay, to a price not to exceed $500. Is that okay?
I'm okay, if that's got, if you're sure it's got enough money, I don't want to just leave you.
I don't know.
I don't want to leave you a blank
You know
check
what?
on the way out the door in a
I
month.
didn't sing happy birthday. We had a birthday that I didn't sing happy birthday the other day because I didn't know if we had the license for it. So,
Or if people had earmuffs.
well, that's true too. All right, we will amend the authorization, authorizing a license agreement resolution to add an expense of no more than $500. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. On the authorization for the refund of the building permit fee, and we just went over that one, and it's going to be applied to another building permit. The balance due is $806.25 from the original permit fee, which was, I believe, it was $1,100 some odd dollars. Do I have a motion to authorize the refund of this building permit fee, which will actually be applied to another permit?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. The third one is, this is a legal standard workday reporting resolution that we have to do for all electeds. Standard workday and reporting resolution, be it resolved that the town of East Fishkill hereby establishes the following as standard workdays for these titles, and will report the officials to the New York State and local employees retirement system based on the record of activities. And we have a record of activities for each elected official. Do I have a motion to adopt the standard workday and reporting resolution as provided?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Peter, would you read the last one, the acceptance of certain town roads, please?
Whereas over the years, the town has accepted many roads as town highways. The town has received a study from the state, and whereas it has been determined that many have not been added to the New York State inventory of town roads, and whereas it is the desire of the town board and highway superintendent to clarify the status of the annexed roads and add them to the road inventory, now therefore be resolved that the roads set forth on the annex schedule be accepted as town roads. Be it further resolved that the highway superintendent is authorized to apply to have the roads in the annex schedule added to the inventory of the town roads, and the roads are Bailey Road, 10 miles in length,
No, .10.
.10 miles in length and 18 feet wide, and Galway Road, which is .17 miles in length and 21 feet wide.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to accept the town's road as read?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Can I ask
Oh.
a question?
Sure.
Where are these roads, and how did these roads come about?
Galway was one of them, right? Galway's up on the top of the mountain. If you go up House Mountain Top, you keep going, I forget what road it's across the street from, but it's only a little It comes in and goes around and goes right back out on Route 52. It's a short little stub up there. And I don't know, what is the other road? I forget.
Barely?
Bailey. That one you got me. The highway superintendent would know, but Bailey's, what was the length of Bailey?
.1.
That's one of those other little ones, and they just weren't on the inventory.
Barracks off of Hosner Mountain Road.
Right.
Galway goes on the rock side of Route 52 on the mountain. Those roads were on the state inventory, and for some reason they're dropped this year. So to get them back in the state inventory, the town had to do a resolution.
And
These were approved years ago, and then somehow they just got dropped off, right?
Dropped off this year, and it's gonna affect our TIP money in 18, so we get them back on, so it won't affect our TIP money.
Thank you.
Okay. I think, Carol, Madam Clerk, do we have a motion and a second?
I have a motion, I need a second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. There are no budget transfers tonight, Mark?
No.
Very good. Now is the time of the meeting. We will take comments on general town issues. This is not a question and answer period. This is a time for the public that can make comments. I did want to just make one observation before we get going. And, you know, we had the vote the other night on the Hillside Lake bond. It did not pass. It was a project that seemed to engender a lot of feeling, a lot of emotion. The proposition failed, so that eliminates one of the options that we have for Hillside Lake. So the plan was to borrow up to $3 million, make it a full recreation area for the town, open for the town, but unfortunately it did not pass. Another option that we had spoken about in the past to consider was to bond for a lesser amount. The town would participate with the community to do a smaller project, but that would require keeping the park district. And we have before us a petition to dissolve the park district. So to address the dissolution petition, the proposal I am putting forth is actually, I will propose to remove the dam, which at some point is going to cost a lot of money if it's not maintained. So I propose to remove the dam, drain the lake, and then the town would take over the property and leave it as a green area. A lot of the complaints is how the lake looks. Well, if we were to take out the dam, drain the lake, it's going to be, I don't think it's probably more than 2 or 3 foot deep. We could let it dry out, maybe get a bulldozer in there, just shape it up a little bit. I do believe if the dam was removed and the lake was drained, you're still going to have a pond, you're still going to have a stream. I believe you still have a spring there. And maybe we could put in seeded grass, walking areas, something like that. That is my proposal if we do go forward with the dissolution petition. Now, some of the considerations that the cost is much less. There would be no special district costs. There would be no special district taxes. So in the cost of removing the dam, although we would definitely look for grants, DEC would like to remove dams. So actually, we would look for money to remove the dam. So in terms of an overall project, it would be much less money. As I said, we could let the area dry out. We would have to get permits, but we could shape it up. But it wouldn't be looking like the lake is now, which the lake is a little bit not what people want to look at, as I'm told. So that's one of the thoughts. Then it would be just mowed as part of a regular, as a regular process. We mow. We have retention ponds, we have public properties, we would mow that too. So it might be something that the people would rather look at. You wouldn't have a taxes, you wouldn't have a special park district. It would just be, hopefully in a couple years, 2 or 3 years, just grass. Maybe you could even put a field or something in there, I don't know. So that's my proposal for the dissolution. I would add that at the December 14th meeting, there will be I will have a resolution prepared setting the date for the dissolution plan and public hearing. That's the plan that I am proposing. But I'd just like to say, if the community has a plan that you'd like to propose, we're very open to it. We know that right now our general public does not want to have Hillside Lake be a town of East Fishkill Recreation Park. But if you have thoughts on what you'd like to see, we're certainly ready to hear them, right up to the public hearing. Because if you have thoughts how we could work this out, we'd be more than happy to work with you. But the dissolution plan that I'm proposing will be to remove the dam. And again, I think you would have a stream, possibly a little pond, some walking area down there. There definitely would be some wetlands, but I think we could make it a lot better to look at. So that will be the plan I'm going to submit. That's my thoughts on it, and obviously, if the board has any considerations, you know, more than happy to hear them. But we will have the resolution to set the public hearing at December 14th meeting. So that being said, if there are any comments on general town issues, now's the time to speak.
I know that you're not polling anybody, but I would be against that. Just while I'm here, I thought I'd put that out. Where would that drainage water go, John? If they,
Well, this is not a question and answer period, but
Oh, okay.
as part of the overall project, like I said, there would be a stream that would go down. I'm sure there's going to be a stream that's going to continue to go through the area, so.
and am I correct that there would be only one more proposal? That we're only allowed one more proposal within the next 4 years?
Comments, please?
Okay, I don't know how to put it as a comment. I understand that, and correct me
Excuse
if
me,
I...
Tom, would you go through the process that we're going to be going through
I think,
going
I
forward?
think the supervisor said that he had a proposal he'll put before the board, but that he's willing to, you know, that any other plans could be
Right.
considered. At the public hearing, the board can take additional comments and plans, and then after the public hearing, they have to adopt a final plan.
Right.
So there's still an opportunity to change or modify or
But-
add to, subtract from the proposal.
So
But
then
am I
what's- I'm sorry,
correct?
Bob. Well, I'm sorry to interrupt
Right.
you. What's the timetable then after?
Okay, so what happens is, the public hearing will be held in the month of January, and then the board would adopt the plan, and then, if the plan's adopted, the community can, by petition, ask for a vote to be held to either approve or reject the plan.
Right.
So that's, you know,
But at that point, I'm just trying to get a little
can be
clarity.
it can be added to or changed up through the public hearing process. So at the public hearing, if somebody came in that night with a plan, the town board can consider that and make that the dissolution plan.
Yes, but I understand that, but am I correct in thinking that after that proposal, whatever it is, that we cannot vote on another proposal for 4 years?
Oh, that's if the plan is turned down.
Right.
Right.
So,
Right.
after this plan, we would have to wait 4 more years to do anything, correct?
No, if the plan's adopted, the plan would be implemented, the district would be dissolved, and that would be finished. The 4-year period is only if there's a plan adopted and the community rejects it, then there can't be petition
Right.
for 4 years.
That's what I was
Yeah,
getting at.
Excuse me, Bob,
Okay.
this is
Yeah,
for
yeah.
comments only.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the audience?
So, Tom, the town supervisor said that we gonna take suggestion from the total town or just the Hillside Lake
Well,
community?
the way I look at it, Councilman, I feel, you know, now we're back, the total town has said what they were going to do.
Right.
They made their point. It's back to the community, and I think if the Hillside Lake community has another idea, if they'd rather go with the smaller project and keep the park district, that would be something, but that's really it's really up to the community.
Okay, so the plan that you're proposing tonight, so it just drain the lake, leave it like that. I'm sure that underneath over there, we're gonna find all kinds of stuff. We're gonna take care of that?
Well,
Maybe some people said that they
Then
threw
we would
cars in
own it.
there, motorcycles,
Yeah, well, we'd hope there's no motorcycles, but certainly,
and whoever knows what else.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
let's-
have we, what kind of cost are we
Well,
talking?
I think, number one, we should point out, if that's the plan, that you're going to have to get permits from DEC.
Correct.
And they're going to have requirements in that permit as to what has to be evaluated before they grant the permit, or if they do grant the permit, what has to be included in the project.
and we'll be looking for grants to help offset the cost. You're still looking at $200,000.
So if we're going down that road, this is not said and done. still, everything else is pending. I mean, we're talking about a limit of time that we have to address this, but we still don't know what the cost is gonna be, what DEC is gonna say.
Well,
And again, if we drain it, there is residual stuff underneath over there. Do we leave it there?
no,
way
no,
it
we're
is,
the
or
town.
we straighten it out?
We
I
would,
mean-
it would be us. It would be just the district would be dissolved. It would be turned over to the town. The town board would accept this property,
Right?
but as a green area. And then certainly we would do the right thing by that. I mean, if there's a motorcycle there, we'll dispose of it. One of the things we have to keep in mind is the dam. The dam is a huge liability. We get notices, on dams throughout the town, Hillside Lake Dam being one of them. So the dam is always going to be out there. If you dissolve the district, but you leave the dam, we're going to have to deal with the dam. Removal of the dam is very good in resolving that issue. And then, once you get involved with this dam, DEC is going to tell you what to do with it. So the dam is a big liability. That's part of the problem.
I mean, as a suggestion, I know this is all, tonight is an announcement, and, I'm happy that something somehow gets resolved, but would it be advisable for the town board to kind of before, while we're accepting information from the community, kind of sit down and discuss? I mean, even with the engineer, meanwhile, could do some research and see the approximation of the cost. Because if we go down that way, and then we find out it could cost us $700,000-$800,000, I think, while we're planning to go that way, I'd rather have a clear idea, more or less, if we go down this way, what is the cost going to be?
Right, a ballpark figure of what it's going to cost.
Yeah, my
So-
question is too, that if we did remove the dam and we had to,
Got pipes
like Councilman
issues over
said,
there.
yeah, if, what's underneath there, can we do that work ourselves? And from our highway department to grade it and, make it like nice,
I'm not sure about the dam removal. I think as far as any kind of recontouring, that's, possible, once it's dried out. But
Once it's
I'm
dried
not-
out.
I don't know about the dam removal itself. I'm not sure.
And then my other question would be is, what about the water filtration grant?
Well, that's one thing we would have to go back. Now, I've spoken with DC about extending the grant, but now this would actually be a modification to the grant.
Modifications of
So
the
we'd
grant?
have to definitely look at the grant. They're very good about extending the term of it, but DASNY, the Dormitory Association of State of New York, and DEC's been very good. I think we could go back to them, and then we'd have to decide, could we modify that project to fit in with what's going to be there? But I think they'd be more than happy to do it. We would also be going to DC, if we did go this route, to remove the dam. Just like I said, I believe we're gonna see, like, there's a spring there, you would see water flowing. Obviously, the stormwater discharges through there. You might end up with a small pond in there, walking areas, stuff like that. And the walking areas, one of the problems when we talked about the smaller project, we looked at, the larger project, we had the walking path around the outside. A lot of homeowners were upset with that. This way, if you did have it, possibly the walking paths would be more into the lake and not out by the homeowners. And I think that would be a recreation possibly we could offer. It wouldn't be a lake, but it'd be nicer to look at. There might be some pond there and
So it
things of
sounds
that
like it's going to be smaller than the original 16 that we were talking about.
Yes, yeah.
That's after drying it out, though.
We'll have to see after we dry it out, if we can, some of it's gonna be wetlands. Obviously, that will be untouched, but I think there's gonna be enough where you're gonna be able to bring equipment in there with the proper DC permits, and make it look decent, seed it, maybe make some little walking paths here and there.
Oh, Scott, I think you got some
Is it
work to do
public
over
comment or
here,
what?
but,
Is it public comment? You guys were supposed to have
I
considered
know,
all
we
of
just
this.
kinda got into a little back and forth
Well,
here about it,
I
so.
realize that.
You would
but
you excuse us for a
Per
minute?
Article 17A,
Excuse me?
New York State
Okay,
General
back to
Municipal Law.
comments. Yep.
New York State General Municipal Law, Article 17A stipulates that within 180 days, you should come up with a plan. All of this conversation should have happened between the date of the vote to dissolve the Park District, and now. We got ramrodded with this proposal of $3 million. We never asked for $3 million. You ramrodded it to us. Now, at the meeting at the Hillside Lake Firehouse recently, where 3 councilmen were there, town lawyer was there, town engineer was there, and we very specifically said that we weren't interested in your Plan B either. I had made mention of the 180-day time frame. So now you're talking about December 14th, and you're discussing it now of a plan amongst yourselves. I don't know why it was never discussed amongst the Hillside Lake residents.
Thank you.
And it remains to be seen what you're going to do with stormwater. I mean, I don't know why there's no draft of what you're proposing now, a little stream going down there. It's going to be a bigger stream when you have a downpour. And then you have to consider downstream from the existing dam, what's going to happen there. Right now, as it is, you leave us, the community, responsible when there's an outburst of stormwater, and your riparian rights don't give you the right to abuse us financially for your downstream water. I've also said that your riparian rights could have already exercised the existing filtration system. You want to use your riparian rights when it's advantageous to you, and screw us.
So, Scott, I think you got some work to do regarding this proposal. We have outfalls that they fall in the lake, like they were just mentioned now. Draining it and leaving it green, we still have to address the fact that water is going to go inside here. We need to know how we're going to handle that. Again, there's been years where we had a lot of water, and if you can't really manage it properly, we're going to have issues down the road. To me, I think one is the cost needs to be addressed. If you could give us an estimation, please, and if this is the way we're going to go, I think we need to find out, the cost of permits, what DEC intends us to do. The other comment I want to make about that grant, and again, grants are very specific when we apply and the way we're going to use it. I am very doubtful, Nick, that grant is going to be shifted, because that is for filtration of water going into a body of water. I don't think the DEC is going to, I hope they do, but I don't think they're going to let us use it other than specific what that grant was for. So I hope, but I wouldn't count on that money anymore if we're switching to complete draining the lake. Again, I think that before we, as a board, decide, we should have more meetings, definitely. And take comments from the community and suggestions. I think that we should all be there and listen to what they want to do. And if this is the way we want to go, I think we got to be real now to the cost. To me, that's important.
If I may just suggest this, Scott, if you would, because we've spoken about the different options for months now. I know we've been working on these. If we could get together and discuss possibly what the estimated cost of removal of the dam would be. Obviously, stormwater discharges, there's 8 discharges in one swale that discharge into Hillside Lake. Obviously, that would be a highway stormwater project. Maybe we could better make it so that, the water, actually, this would be a good time to upgrade our stormwater system going in. And hopefully, we would hope that DEC would continue to give us the grant for the stormwater filter, because that could still work well on that side. But maybe we sit down, we could work up some numbers, submit them to the board, kind of just a concept plan, something like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, no, that's it, thank you.
Okay, my name is Mary Ellen Smolinski, and I'm a resident and a member of the Hillside Lake Board. I'm just a little concerned about the fact that this was public comments, and you had a full discussion on a plan that wasn't discussed or given to anybody in the Hillside Lake District. There's no comments that come back from the board, but there's been several conversations here that have led to conversations over there. You came up with this plan. I don't know if it's a written plan. I don't know if it's something that came off the top of your head, but there's no documentation here. There's no costs. You're asking for costs. When you're making this plan and blindsiding the entire Hillside Lake District. I want to thank all of the people that did vote yes, the 1/3 of the people that voted. I want to thank them because it gave us some validation that this is a good place. And there is some hope that this would have turned into something pretty good for the town of East Fishkill. And I just can't, I feel very remorseful in a way too about this particular plan that you put out, because you didn't provide us with any heads up on it. There was no transparency as you, I was unfortunately, I had to miss the meeting due to family responsibilities, and I was very grateful when, the town councilmen came and discussed with our residents for the first time, besides Manny showing up at all our meetings. And, I got some good feedback, so I was really positive. I felt really, and then, the video, and I think it probably could have been a little bit more informational as far as the history of why Hillside Lake is the way it is. That dam that's deteriorating, and when it started to deteriorate, was a lot of because of the stormwater salt went into the lake, and cement rots salt. I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I mean, this is something that I feel and learned that has happened there. To say now that all the work that's been done, that now you're just going to knock down the dam and drain it and turn it into a wetland, is a little, little concerning to me, and a little lack of caring about a whole community that's been there since, over 77 years, and now you just want to dissolve it and erase it. You talk about, well, maybe we could do a walkway, and maybe we can have a puddle or a pond or something. I mean, that to me is kind of flip. A lot of history, a lot of hours you come here and try to get direction, and we've had many meetings about what we could do with that. And the fact that it was even put up before the town was to me, wasn't the time to do it, but you did it anyway, and you wanted it, and we had to go through with what we had to do to try and get it to the folks and let them know what is the possibility of it being there. And it was, it's recreation in the whole northern quadrant of East Fishkill. East Fishkill is a big place, and every place you really want to go for any good recreation is, down, I guess, on Route 52. But just want to make a comment that, the dissolution plan and to, I think it should go forward, and I think the town should take responsibility for what they've done to that lake with that, with their water. There is, we've had many discussions and many reasons why things went wrong with Hillside Lake, and most of it is from neglect, And those residents that were back in, I guess, the 80s or 90s, when they went to you for help, went to the town, meaning, for help, and they had that 7-year plan, and it was supposed to improve. It didn't. It just kept getting worse and worse. And every decade, it got worse and worse and worse because of the neglect and because of more stormwater and more storm drains and more of the stormwater conveyance systems going into the lake and turning a 6-foot, 4-foot lake into a 4-inch lake in most places. To me, that's sad. That's really sad. And to hear that you want to dry it out, it's very sad. And I hope someone comes up with a better plan than that. I hope we can come up with a better plan than that. But after 7 years, that old saying, you can't fight City Hall. Well, this is a perfect example of what your force is like against people like us. That's all I gotta say.
Try and make it real quick. I don't really think that the last proposal that got voted on was presented in a time manner for the people in the town, people in Hillside Lake, to really make an informed decision as to whether or not it might be something that they really want. I mean, I watched 22. I only seen a couple of episodes, I'll call it, where it was being explained, to the town people. I just think that there wasn't enough, that when it finally came to this, that there wasn't enough time to really explain it to the people for them to fully understand what they were voting on and what they could possibly get for the money. I think that we should, maybe, in my opinion, and I'm not on the advisory board, I'm only speaking for myself, I think that process should be repeated, if possible. And I think that the town should be given the opportunity to be more informed before we do another vote. I think that there should be some other presentations, while the one that was recently aired with the people from Hillside Lake was okay. I think we can certainly expand on that, or maybe even make a better presentation for the people. Bottom line is, I just don't think that the people fully understand what they were voting for. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Curzio. I just very briefly wanted to provide one update to the board. I apologize for back-to-back meeting updates, but this was pretty important. Obviously, my comments are my personal ones and not necessarily representative of any other board member or the board as a whole. The board recently voted to send to the public a large-scale capital project in a 6-to-1 vote, with me being the dissent. It's a $85.6 million capital project, which will be divided into 2 parts, Proposition A and Proposition B. It will be voted on Monday, December 11th, so it's not the usual Tuesday vote. Sorry, I didn't.
This is time for comments. Just explain what the capital project is.
Sure. So it's $40 million out of the 85.6 is innovation center that would be attached to the library entrance of the Carmel High School, if you're familiar with the buildings. So that would be 40, Proposition A. There's a transportation garage update. There's some roof replacements, which those are in my view, necessary. The unfortunate thing is that they were grouped in with items that are not necessarily essential in an effort to persuade more people to vote for it, but such as library improvements and things of that nature. But 40 million, the main thing is a $40 million innovation center or performing arts center. So I encourage the public to vote no. It would be on a $350,000 assessed home and tax increase of $128.47 per year. So it's quite a large increase, and school taxes already make up about 70% of your local property tax bill. So on Monday, December 11th, I encourage the voters in East Fishkill to come out 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Kent Elementary School and vote no on the project. Thank you very much.
Ed Sloshow again. I just want to make a correction. At the last board meeting, and Supervisor, you had answered a question that I had with regards to the properties, the manufactured properties behind the Dome and behind the East Fishkill Corporate Park. I had referenced as Global Foundries is the owner of those properties, and it pointed out to me that's incorrect. That was owned by Brightland Solar Company. So I just guess I'm going to call it either a retraction or a correction to my comments that I made at the last meeting. And then when Brightland Solar Company kind of popped again into my head when I was informed that that was the actual owner. I do remember that we did have a pending lawsuit against them. Did that ever go forward? What was the outcome of that? Or was that discontinued, or?
Yeah, we'll respond to this.
I'm just asking the comment, you don't have to do that right now, but I was just curious as to what transpired, because it looks like they basically abandoned and went away. And obviously, they did come back to sell parcels of the frontage there to the proprietors of the Dome. So obviously, they're still around, but obviously are not maintaining the property that they own. So I was just curious as to what happened with that legal action. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else like to comment on general town issues? Okay, there being none. Comments from town board members? Any comments from the town board members?
I'd just like to congratulate everyone and thank everyone that voted on the weekend. Congratulate all the winners. Thank everybody that came out to vote. And I'd like to thank the veterans, especially remember them this weekend on Veterans Day.
Absolutely.
Very good, Peter. Thank you very much. Okay. Any other comments?
I'd like to make one quick one. I want to congratulate the 12U Southern Dutchess Patriots football team for winning the Taconic Youth Football Championship.
Wow.
Very proud of those guys. They played on, was at Mikey Stadium on November the 5th, and they won the big U12 championship. So
Wow.
I think we'll honor them in a few more months. So congratulations to them. And also, East Hudson is part of, our East Fishkill Soccer Club is part of East Hudson, and East Hudson encompasses a pretty vast amount of the state. And one of our coaches in East Fishkill got recognized as the East Hudson Coach of the Year. And I'd like to recognize Brian Harrows and congratulate him for winning that.
Wow, very good.
Yep, it's a good, nice honor.
Okay, if that's it, next town board meeting is December 4th.
I
I'm
just
sorry.
have a
Got a
couple.
couple more
sorry.
comments.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Oh, I
Nick.
thought we were done.
sorry.
We were so quiet.
Two things. Number one, November is Cancer Awareness Month. I'm not shaving for No Shave November. I have a lot of friends and family who are affected by cancer, and just if anybody could get the awareness out, that's wonderful. Number two, I'd like to also thank everybody for coming out to vote. Tuesday was big election, and I'm excited and honored to be the new supervisor. I'll work hard for you, as I always have, as your councilman, and I just want to say that, you know, it's, and everybody who sits on this board, or anybody who sat on this board previously, they really must love the town, because the election is a very stressful time for ourselves, our families, our friends, everybody. And really, we honestly have to love the town because it's a real ordeal. And I want to thank all the candidates who ever run, and I want to thank all the people in town who do come out to vote for us. Thank you very much.
Just want to say some thank you to the community, the town citizens that came out in drones. I've noticed, I follow a little bit of the general elections that went on this year was a little bit different than usual. A lot of unexpected wins, and it was due to unexpected propositions that were put in the back of the ballot. They drew a lot of people to the voting booths for different reasons, and a lot of unexpected changes that they were not supposed to happen, but that's the way elections play out. But I'm really proud of the town of East Fishkill and the people that came out to vote in East Fishkill. They really paid attention, they knew what they were doing, and I want to thank them for really giving me the opportunity to be reelected. Like Nick just said, it is a stressful time to run. It was a stressful time for me. I will be doing the due diligence, and I want to just thank everybody for their great support.
Oh, in case Manny threatened me if I didn't say this. Just a reminder, everyone that ran, please take all your signs down.
Most of them are down.
And the people that ran for the state and put all those ones up for the proposition, somebody take those down too, because I know they don't come to our town.
After talking to you, Pete, I've been
And I
taking,
saw them all up there.
I've been
I went all
taking
the
some
way-
of the other people's too. You said you could take them all,
Everybody,
so
everybody.
I've been doing some other people a favor, so.
Okay. That being said, if there's no other business, next town board meeting is December 14th. And again, to the people from Hillside Lake, I will be putting forth that, setting the day with the resolution. But any ideas, come up, let's talk with our board members. If we could partner with the highway, whatever we can do, we're open to it. But the ballot failed, and we'll move forward. But if you have ideas, we'll certainly entertain them. Next town board meeting is on the 14th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Thank you very
Happy
much.
Thanksgiving.